I started working with Bruce and Chirowealth just about a year and a half ago. What really inspired myself and my wife to move in this direction with Chirowealth is we just felt like after being in practice for several years that we just didn't really have a good handle on where money was coming from, where it was going, and whether or not we were building the future that we wanted to have as far as our lifestyle, as far as our ability to give back, as far as our ability to have a huge impact in our community. And so I started to look into different areas for coaching. I looked and talked to a lot of different colleagues of mine, asking where they had looked to for advice, and met with several different financial planners. And a really good friend of mine suggested that I reach out and contact Bruce, and then I did. And we got on the phone, and we just seemed to really resonate, and where he was coming from made sense to me. And we just started to implement the procedures and the processes that he teaches. And really, we've never looked at our finances the same ever since. Before we started with Chirowealth, my wife and I, it's kind of an interesting story. We had been seeking, guidance in the financial world for a while, and so we'd taken a Dave Ramsey class, and we had learned a lot through that process. However, because of that, when I sat down with Bruce and he started to ask me different questions about, where we were financially and how much we had saved, because of what we had learned to that point, we really hadn't saved hardly anything. We'd saved our emergency fund, and then everything beyond that was just really, really focused on trying to decrease the amount of debt, which, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but, for what we wanted to be able to do and the access that we would like to have to our money and to be able to, have a lifestyle that we enjoyed, we just hadn't developed and saved the amount of the money that we should have. And so, as crazy as this sounds, being in practice, almost 4 years at the time, really hadn't saved hardly anything, and anything left to show for it. And then just within 6 months of starting with Bruce, within 6 months' time, and this is the absolute truth and blew my mind at the time, but within 6 months, going from saving hardly anything, literally saved $50,000 in that first 6 months working with him. The biggest benefit that I've received from Bruce is just having somebody there that is just really put in time and effort to make sure that we understand what we're doing with the resources that we bring in, and how that has such a huge impact, not only for our family and for our children and our future, but really just knowing that as chiropractors, we want to help people and we want to have an impact in this world. And so we can't do that if our own financial situation is a mess. And so really understanding the different products out there, understanding where we would have been putting our money and where that money actually was going to, and how to really understand cash flow and how to capitalize on what's being brought into the office, and how ultimately to set ourselves up for a future that would have us where we want to be. And so it just allowed us to know the steps, to understand the process, to actually see it in front of us on paper, how it all worked. And just that understanding is invaluable. The system itself, truly, as we started to walk through it, was pretty simple. However, there's a big difference between being simple and being easy. And so on my side, I just had to make sure that I was ready to listen to Bruce. I had to make sure that I was willing to be coachable and be open to some of the concepts and learning that he was trying to get me to engage in. And once I was able to really just dive in and jump in with the concepts and really change some of my old beliefs, we really started to see some positive things happening. I'll tell you what, I've actually recommended and continue to recommend Bruce and Chirowealth to a lot of my colleagues. I just know that with chiropractic, we have such big hearts and we want to help everybody. But when it comes to the business hand, a lot of us just struggle. And we struggled from the get-go, trying to understand how to serve, but also how to run a profitable, functioning, sustainable business. And with Bruce, that's what we've got. And because of that, I've several of my friends and colleagues have not only talked to Bruce, but started with Bruce. And I would absolutely recommend that if you feel like you're maybe in the situation that we were, or you just got questions that need some answers, just to reach out, and he will talk with you. He will ask you some questions personally, and you guys, between that process, will be able to figure out whether or not it's a good match, and then you just go from there.